Hi, this is Steve Addison, and you're listening to the Movements Podcast, the podcast for people who want to multiply disciples and churches everywhere. Today, we're in Memphis, Tennessee, talking to Zach and Calley Medlock about No Place Left online.
Serving in Memphis for almost 8 full years now, pursuing No Place Left. And it's been an amazing 8 years. Ron and I teamed up together maybe around 6 or 7 years ago, and we're still, praise the Lord, rolling together as partners. And Calley, we got married, and she was the co-laborer, the cuter co-laborer. That was almost 5 years ago.
Yeah, 2015.
Yeah, almost 5 years ago. And our vision is to see multiplying churches out of every zip code in the Memphis metro area, which is 41 zip codes. And we also want to see a simple multiplying church amongst every people group that has 1,000 people or more, which is about almost 25 different groups. And then we have social segments. So these are sort of bigger segments that we're really targeting. So that might be low income, that might be the wealthy, that might be our medical community we have here in Memphis, that might be college students, young professionals. So some of those social segments we're targeting, which is 7 different segments. And so my time is lots of training, encouraging, pastoring. It seems like more and more the church planners and those that are pursuing lostness in these different segments or zip codes, and also planting churches ourselves. So I've been, the last year and a half, been planting a church in a youth prison, which has been a lot of fun, and then coming alongside others that are doing the same. And Calley, you want to share about what you're doing? She's going after No Place Left in her hospital. She's a faithful disciple maker in her hospital. She's seen 3 of her coworkers come to Christ and baptize, and she's constantly trying to leverage her workplace as a nurse as a place to make disciples. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I met Zach like in 2010 or so, and we grew up in the same home church. And so when I was in college, I think my freshman year is when Zach got into the No Place Left community, and I liked Zach and I liked No Place Left. So it didn't take much to get me to tag on to that.
It was sort of a package deal. You got No Place Left and Zach.
Yeah, it really worked out in my favor. So I went on a mission trip in 2013 with Zach and Ron. And that's where I learned like the bridge illustration, how to share the gospel. I think we learned a little bit about 4 fields then. And so I came home and just started practicing it with my family. I have 3 younger sisters. And so I shared with the oldest of the 3, and she said that she wanted to follow the Lord. And so we got to talk about what that looks like and what that means. And then I trained her in how to share. I can't remember if it was the bridge of 3 circles back then, but trained her in how to share that. And then we called up another one of my sisters into the room that we were in. We're like, hey, we want to show you something. And so she got to practice that with my other sister, and that sister said that she wanted to follow the Lord as well. And so got to see them baptized in our home, and got to share with my mom, and just share with her like that, you know, this following Jesus is looking different for me now than it has before, and share the gospel with her and just talk about her background. And she said that she wanted to really start following Jesus in a different way than she had ever before. And so for a while we had a church meeting in my home just with my family. We're going out there on Sundays and intentionally going through, you know, the 3/3 and being church with them. So seen a lot of change and transformation in my family over the years.
It sounds like things were going along pretty much full speed ahead there in Memphis. And then like for the rest of the world, the virus came and lockdown. What's it been like since that happened?
Well, typically I'm in around maybe 3 to 6 meetings a day on average, and most of them are around the city. So I'm burning gas in my Honda Civic and just enjoy being with people face to face. And then all of a sudden that was stopped pretty immediately. And we started quarantine earlier than most people because one of the church planners in the NoPlaceLeft network in Memphis was actually the second confirmed case in his county. And they were over our house 2 days previous before they were tested positive, having dinner over our house that night.
Wow.
So 2 days previous. So he called me and he's like, bro, I'm so sorry, but we just tested positive for coronavirus. And we were thinking, whoa, that's crazy. And so we started lockdown for us was probably 2 weeks before everyone else did. And so we kind of, I guess, I feel like the last 2 or 3 weeks, this has almost been like normal life now. We've kind of accepted a new way of doing things. And so I guess one thing that I've been encouraged about is that 90% of the work was able to be transitioned to phone calls and Zoom calls. A lot of what I'm doing is I'm encouraging, I'm training, I am pastoring church planners, and I've been able to transition a lot of that to Zoom. As far as going door to door, as far as going out into a community to do an outreach of some sort, which we actually had a really big one planned on April 18th that had to be canceled. It was big. We were probably going to have around 60 to 80 people go out and target one community we've been praying for and prayer walking for a while. And we had the whole day was going to be going out doing various service projects, visiting single moms, visiting people we had actually encountered in the harvest in the months prior, and all that had to be canceled. So we had to figure out how to continue the Great Commission in a different way. I remember Calley was actually on a call with some of her friends just talking about, all right, girls, what do we do now? And you want to tell them that part of the story?
Yeah, so we were just talking about what evangelism will look like in this season. And Zach from across the room, listening to our conversation, said, well, why don't y'all have like an online Bible study and do an online DBS? And so I threw that out to the group. And
DBS meaning Discovery Bible Study. So it's something we've been doing for, years, honestly, almost since the beginning of pursuing NoPlaceLeft, probably 8 years ago, just inviting people to make spiritual discoveries of who Jesus is and reading stories with them and asking a few simple questions.
Yeah.
So
since we weren't getting to engage people in the community, I wasn't able to go to work for those 2 weeks during quarantine. So I figured, you kind of skip having to meet people and get out in the midst of, lostness. It's like two barriers is you just go to your Facebook or Instagram and you've already got, tons of people that you're already in association with. And so just made a post and said, hey, I'm going to be reading a story of hope about Jesus at this time on this day. And if you're interested at all, I'd love for you to join. You don't have to know anything about the Bible. And just created like a little poll for people to say like, yeah, I'd love to join, or maybe next time. And had, I think like 23 people who were interested.
In 48 hours. That was blowing my mind. After the first night, I said, so how many? She says, I've got 9 girls already said they want to join. And the next day she said, I have 23. I was like, are you serious?
Yeah. And so of those 23, there were 9 ladies who actually joined the call, and it was people that I would not have expected. It was really neat to see. There were girls who were in the same stage of life as me. There were girls who were younger than me. There were some ladies. One of my grandmothers joined. She's like in her 70s and not a believer, and some ladies in their 40s. So it's just really neat to see people from all over, all kind of different walks of life join in on this call. I use Zoom.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And Zoom only gives 40 minutes. I've got the pro account, but Calley, I think, set up her own account. And so we knew we wanted to see this multiplied from the beginning. And we were thinking, can it be done in 40 minutes with that free account? And she actually ended up using my pro account, and it ended up being like right at like 43 minutes or something. So we found out it could be done.
And I used mine for the next one because you want people to be able to still do this even if you don't have, the pro account.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things just to practice, was keeping it short and sweet and simple, so that more people can access it. There were a few girls who I don't think have a relationship with the Lord, but are in a seeking stage. And then another, maybe half of the girls were pre-existing, but a lot of them were kind of pre-existing, but I don't see a lot of spiritual activity in their lives right now.
Okay.
I was nervous going into it, just thinking like, I don't even know the last time I had a conversation with almost all of these people. But I think the Lord really blessed it. We read the story of Jesus and the Samaritan woman, and every single person had something to say, and I think something really, really profound to say. They all chimed in. I think they were all really encouraged by the story, and I just asked at the end of it, how can we have hope because of the story that we've read tonight? And so it was just really sweet to see all of these women talking about ways that they can have hope in the midst of, the coronavirus and the fear that may cause to different degrees for these women. And I think every one of them were really encouraged and could totally find hope in it.
A neat question she came up with on her own was, at the end of the story, the sinful woman, which is the one we've been using.
Oh, yeah, I think I said Samaritan woman, but we did the sinful woman.
Okay, Luke 7, 36.
Yeah.
Luke 7.
50.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And at the end of the story, Jesus says, woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. That's how it ends. And she added the question, how was this woman able to leave with peace?
Okay.
And that peace is what people are looking for right now.
And then what happened next, Calley?
So I created a link and sent it out to people on, it was just a little questionnaire that said, it
was a Google form.
Yeah. Would you be interested in joining more of these? And then got their contact information. So I did a few more of the calls, and each time I would just reach out to those ladies and say, hey, I'm doing one this night. I kind of did them at different times and different days, just to see if other people would be able to join. And there were a few girls who were consistently joining the calls. And one girl in particular is starting to read the Bible and reaching out to another friend that she has who's a believer, a mutual friend of ours, and is really interested in spiritual things, reading the Bible, praying, things like that now that I don't think was really there before. So there was one particular girl who joined the call and just said, hey, I'm super interested in being a part of this. I'd known her from a mutual friend. I knew that mutual friend had talked to her about Jesus, had shared some stories, but hadn't gotten a lot of traction in the past. And so she reached out, said she wanted to join. She came on the first call. She came on the second call. She came on the third call. And she was probably the most, everyone was interactive, but you could tell something was going on in her heart when she was on the call. She was just really moved by the story. She was moved by the sinful woman, how she was able to come to Jesus, and Jesus just saw her and accepted her. We read a story of Mary and Martha. She was so moved by seeing the example of Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus and not being distracted. And so as we were ending the stories, I asked if there was a way that, or anyone that these ladies could reshare this story with in their life. And she messaged me later and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that I've already gotten to share it with my mom and my boyfriend." And which was pretty huge, because those were, or at least her boyfriend was someone that she wasn't really willing to share stories of Jesus with in the past. He's not a believer, and wasn't open to it at all. And so that just felt really huge for her to be able to go home and share that with him. And she reached out and asked if she could join our church on Sunday night. So she's been joining in with our church for Zoom. And the mutual friend that we have messaged me the other day and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that she told me that she wanted to start reading the Bible. And so she just started in Genesis, and she sent me a text message and said, 'Hey, I'm reading Genesis chapter 4 tomorrow. Do you want to read it with me?'" And so I've just seen so much fruit come out of just a simple, 40-minute story from the Bible. And yeah, it seems like the Lord has her on a path of really getting a hold of her heart, which has been super exciting.
Yeah.
I was able to lead one, or I made my post, and I thought that I'd have a lot of people, but I had one guy, and I thought, man, my wife's way more popular than me. But this one guy was worth 100, because he was an old friend from middle school I hadn't talked to in over, 10, 12 years. And I was shocked that he messaged me and said, "Hey, Zach, send me a link. I'd like to join the Bible study." And I really had no clue where this guy was at with the Lord. And we jump on the call, and I kind of laugh and say, "All right, Ben, you're the only one that joined my call." And he laughed. And we ended up catching up and talking for 2 hours that night. And we've met 4 times since. And what's neat is, we were just talking today, is I invited him to come over and do what we're starting as little driveway hangouts. So bring a lawn chair, your favorite beverage, and come sit in the driveway 6 feet apart for just a different way to connect. And so hopefully our first in-person encounter in probably 15 years will be in the next few days. Yeah. Wow. Driveway hangouts. That's the new thing we're trying to multiply. We've been training people how to host their own driveway hangout. We had one recently that was a huge success. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as just drawing or casting a net across your social media platform. Yeah. But I've also heard of stories people that are targeting their coworkers and friends with just an individual text message saying, "Hey, I'm going to be hosting an online story of hope during this certain day and time. Would you like to join?" And we've been hearing success of people just using their phone list or email even. It doesn't have to be just your social media. But we tend to collect a lot of friends we forget about, and we haven't talked to in 6, 7, 8 years. And we typically don't think of them as our oikos, but a lot of us are being surprised at who's still watching on social media.
The most encouraging thing isn't even necessarily what has been going on in Memphis, but maybe what's been going on in other places of the world. I think we've just heard about so many different people and places all over the world that have adopted doing these Discovery Bible studies online. And so it's just been super encouraging to hear all the time different people who are doing this, different people that they're engaging, really neat stories. For like 2 weeks straight, Troy Cooper would just keep sending in my inbox, like, "There's a new one in this place. There's a new one in this place." And so I think that's honestly been one of the most encouraging things, is just seeing people being able to reach lostness all across the world, although we're like forced to be in our living room.
So for, most of the churches in the network here and around the country are meeting in homes. And we've been talking with them versus others that have been meeting in buildings. And we found a really different response from those that had a larger building that they're meeting in versus a home. Most of our house churches have found it very easy to transition to gather over Zoom. That started immediately, and we've been surprised at all the new people that have hopped on. We've got a couple new members that I actually haven't seen in person that ended up joining the church, like Amanda's mom, who's been with us every week for going on 7-8 weeks now. And so we meet online. We meet over Zoom for about 2 hours. We do the 3/3 process. We've learned how to share our YouTube videos to worship over YouTube, and we use the breakout room feature, which is gold, with Zoom for our accountability and care. And it's gone really well. We're still able to be encouraged. We're able to really do everything we could do in person. Last night we were gathering and we did the Lord's Supper together. We haven't had our first Zoom baptism yet, but I believe it's coming soon. As far as getting those on these Discovery Bible studies connected to church, one of the things we've been doing is if someone is joining one of these Discovery Bible studies online, connecting them with the local church in their area or church planner that's kind of pursuing that area. And so, for instance, this one guy who joined a call, I knew that he lived in Olive Branch, and I invited the guy who's been pursuing NoPlaceLeft Olive Branch to join our next Discovery Bible study. And so they joined, and then they got to connect and share their contact information so that when things begin to lift, there's a new person to potentially join their church. What we see across the city, Steve, is that this community is, instead of saying, "Oh no, this is terrible," being sad about the different limitations that this has brought, we see this community of churches and leaders really saying, this is an opportunity. And I've been so encouraged to see that attitude. And my hope is that attitude spills into the rest of the church, that we're aiming to influence and to train and to encourage, that the church would see several things, that they would see that death is real, and that time is ticking and urgency is grown in our church across the city. Another thing is that people would remember that the Great Commission will always continue, no matter what. And, I think it's exposed some things in the church lately. It's exposed lots of different sin in the church, and we're hoping that God uses this as a season of exposing the weaknesses and the sin in the church. I'm hoping and praying that churches are more open to changing things because they've been forced to go into substantial change. And maybe this will bring more courage to bring about new change when it comes to seeing No Place Left.
Visit movements.net for the resources you need to get started multiplying disciples and churches everywhere. I'm Steve Addison for the Movements Podcast.